Hi everyone, here is AhkTaar and welcome back on my YouTube channel. This time I want to give you some tips for the faction Abyss and give you my top tier heroes in order to try to get as much stars as possible on these factions. So let's begin with the Dragon Tribe. I'm not gonna show you here directly in the faction Abyss, but from the gallery. So let's have a look in the Dragon Tribe. Here we have some really interesting heroes. First of all, I would like to say that in order to get the first copy of AhkTaar in the faction Abyss, you need at least 45 stars in each faction Abyss. That means if you can't reach 45 in one faction Abyss, maybe if you have the right heroes, you can reach higher stages in one or two faction Abyss. And this is really important. There are two faction Abyss that are really easy, if I can say so, because you have the Dragon Tribe. It's the easiest one because you have all the best heroes in the game. If you are early game, here if you don't have these heroes, legendary ones, you can use at least 2 or 3 epic heroes in order to try to push this faction. The first one is Reeves. Reeves is a great epic hero damage dealer. He can apply a counter attack on himself, deal a lot of bleed damage, and if you play him with some leech, crit rate, mastery, the same kind of sets you would like to use on Lucia, for example, then he can be great in this content. Yeah, before I jump into this content, let me give you some advice. The best set you can have for the faction Abyss in order to try to push as much stars as you can early on, you want to forge this kind of set because it gives you some crit rate, leash and mastery. That means if you are using heroes such as Reeves or Holder, you can have some crit, leech, mastery, you can deal a lot of bleed damage. If you have also Amelia, it's great on her. She can self-heal a lot because she's gonna deal a lot of direct damage and she's gonna deal a lot of dot damage and you're gonna heal yourself. So this gear is the best you can have early on in order to try to get some stars in the faction Abyss. So now let's go back here. Imagine you have some good pieces of this gear. You can put some on Reeves, and probably if you have good stats on him, you can maybe try to reach at least stages 12, 13 or maybe 14 solo, only using Reeves if he is A5 exclusive 3 at least. So this is pretty nice. You can do also the same with Melia if you have her. It will be even better with her because she has self counter attack, she applies a lot of dot damage, HP burnings, and she deals a lot of direct damage, so she's gonna heal a lot. So these two heroes are awesome here. But also on this faction, you have Wim and Sinov, who are the best support you can have for this faction. If you don't have Nicholas and Pauline, they are the best you can have. And still, at the moment, I am still using Wim and Sinov in my team, and I have all the heroes in this faction. So I use Sinov, Wim, Hezonja, Melia, and Nicholas. But you can replace Nicholas by Pauline. It's gotta do the same, or maybe even better. So that was all for this faction. I think on it, maybe if you don't have HP burning heroes, you can use Natalie with Reeves. It can be a lot of bleed. It can deal a lot of bleed damage, and it could do the job. If you're going with direct damage, you can use a Huff in order to inflict some HP burnings, lower the defense and the tenacity of the target. And so you can use Ariel and Greta instead of daughters, but it will be less efficient for sure. So the best heroes to have here are Hezonja, Melia, Nicholas, Pauline, Wim and Sinov, and early on, Reeves. So let's jump into the second one, Sword Harbor. It is one of the easiest faction Abyss if you have the right heroes. because you have Catherine in it. Catherine is the best hero in the game, thanks to the consolidation 2, the counterattack and the heals. She is so great. In this faction, if you have Sigmund, you can reach with only these 2 heroes, stages 21 maybe, using only these 2 heroes. Maybe it's stage 22 if you have exclusive 3 on Catherine and a lot of stats on your heroes. So, the combination of these 2 heroes is the best combination you can have in the Faction Abyss. The easiest way to farm the runes and the legendary auras on your heroes. And also you can have Ben Austin. He is mandatory for the guild boss if you want to increase your damage. But there are other interesting heroes in here. You have Verto, who can increase the attack of your heroes and lower the crit rate of the boss and the effect hit of enemies, and increase your effect hit. So if you don't have Sigmund, you can probably use Catherine, you can use Luz. He's gonna deal a lot of damage based on the target max HP, and if you use both of them with Verto, your Luz is gonna deal a lot of damage on the boss, and probably he is gonna be great here. Then you have other heroes. Yoko I really don't like, Oboro I don't like. Other heroes in here are not that great. If you miss a shield, you can bring Christian, but he is not a great hero. So other heroes in here are not that great, in my opinion. Xia can deal a lot of direct damage, but still, she needs exclusives and she won't deal that much. So the top tier heroes to use in this faction are Catherine, Luz, Sigmund, Barry, Ben Austin, and Verto. But you can also use Soli for the waves. He can provoke enemies and make your heroes pursue the target, so that means you can be safer during the waves, during the bleed and poison waves, I mean, and inflict more dots or damage on enemies with the pursuit. So this is also a great hero. So that was all for this faction. Let's jump into the next one. Here, this one is a bit complicated because you don't have a lot of great heroes in it. Maybe, I say maybe, the best hero to try to get some stars at the beginning is probably Lutz. Let's have a look to his kit. As an epic hero, I say, because there are great legendary heroes here, but nobody is using Lutz. But if you have copies of him and you like heroes in here, maybe you can build him just in order to get some stars in here and then regress him if you still have some regress potions. Look at his kit. First of all, passive. He can decrease. He has some leech. He has some piercing rate. That means he doesn't need a lot of defense down on the boss. He can he increases his leech if the target has speed down, and he can reduce the target speed using the basic attack, which is pretty nice. He has some decent damage coefficient on his skills and an AoE attack right here, and reduce speed of enemies in AoE. So this one, if you build him with some leech, extra leech sets, and crit rate, crit damage attack, probably he can survive and maybe try to beat the boss. He can also increase his attack by 20%. I'm not sure that he can deal alone against the boss. On stages 12, maybe he can solo it. 12, 13, I don't know. 14, I don't know. Maybe you can test it. But in this faction, the best hero to have is 100% Nita. She is by far the highest damage dealer in this faction. If you have her, then normally you are the king in this zone. Here you can also use maybe the others. I like here Kultum. She can provide some heals, some extra turn to one ally, damage immunity if you take too much damage. She can provoke, apply a shield, and lower the attack of the boss. So this hero is great for the boss wave and for the waves. You have also Guhana. She is almost mandatory if you want to push this faction Abyss, because she's gonna decrease the speed of the boss by 40% and increase your speed, lower the direct damage you're gonna take, and heal, increase your turn meta, boost your attack by 20%. She gives a lot of buffs and things to your team. So in my opinion, you can also use Walter if you have him, maybe to try the solo, because when the enemy plays and have a poison on him, he is gonna heal himself. So if you use him with the leash set, with the crit set, crit and leash, he will probably heal himself better, and maybe can solo stages 12, 13 maybe, 14, I don't know. It has to be tested. The best heroes to bring in this faction are Guhana for sure, and Nita if you have her. Elbeck is awesome in here if you build him with a lot of HP, crit rate, crit damage. I managed to reach floor 17 with only Elbeck and Guhana. This one, Hertha, is one of the best heroes to kill the boss. She deals a lot of bleed damage. So you can bring in this faction Guhana, Walter, Nita, Hertha, and then you would need a shield, so probably you want to use a Kultum. And this is pretty all. If you don't have Guhana, maybe you can use Alahan instead, but you will not profit from the speed reduction on the boss. So maybe in order to reduce the speed of the boss, you can use Reliant. She can do it pretty well. So that was all for this faction. Sana is not that great, Horus neither. This hero, Nazakma, won't help a lot against the boss. And Alahan can stun waves, so he is really interesting. So yeah, it depends on the healers you have. So that was all for this faction. For the next one, here, the best hero to have, but it requires a lot of exclusives, it's Tifia. With only her, exclusive 2, she is the best hero in the game to solo content. She can deal a lot of direct damage by herself, and she will counter-attack enemies if you have the second exclusive. So with some leech, I was able to get 3 stars on the 17 first stages of this faction Abyss. If you don't have her, or if you don't have exclusives on her in this faction, you can use Offner in order to apply a lot of bleeds. You can use Stan, who is a great poisoner because he deals poison damage based on his defense, and he deals a lot of poison damage because he increases his defense all the time. Thanks to his passive, every time he's gonna take some direct damage, he will get bonuses in defense, and so normally during the fight he gets up to 6%, 60% more defense thanks to this, and he deals poison damage based on his defense. So he is a unique hero. He can self-buff defense, silence some enemies that can help a lot during waves, and he can apply 5 layers of poison using his ultimate with a 4 turns cooldown, and also silence. And he has 90% chance. Excuse me, he has 90% chance to inflict the poisons. That means he doesn't need that much effect hit in the faction Abyss. He is a great poisoner. So here you also have Taf. He can heal, cleanse, stun, and inflict deep poison and inflict some poisons on enemies. He is a great poisoner and a great healer. So in this faction you can also use, where is it? Maybe Sylvan, if I'm not mistaken. He can increase your attack, provide a shield, increase your resistance, and it can be interesting if you're playing with a high resistance team. and he can lower the attack of the enemy, and this is pretty important against the boss, and stun enemies in AoE, and this is really nice. So this is a decent epic hero to bring in this faction. You have also Malasa. You can maybe plan to use Stun and Malasa, so you are gonna inflict a lot of poisons, and Malasa can trigger poisons with her second ability up to 3 targets. And this is a huge. She's gonna deal a lot of damage thanks to this, and inflict some extra poisons, and more poison damage thanks to her passive. So she is a great poisoner too. So here you need a healer, you need maybe a Taff. If you have him, it's great. If you don't have him, you can use Mavka in a poison team. You can also use Pacino. He can bring a speed up, attack up to your heroes, grant a shield to himself. It's not great, but on all allies thanks to his ultimate. And he is a decent hero to bring here, if you need a support. If you have Luna, it's great, but I don't recommend you to take Luna as first and second mythic hero, otherwise you will lack some progress in the game. Because you can take at least 1 DPS to help in the Faction Abyss and in other contents, and you can take Ben Austin. This is the best thing to take. So if you have Serena, maybe she can solo some content, but I'm not sure that she can solo after stages 12, because she will lack damage. Maybe if only the boss remains, and if she has a lot of crit rate and crit damage and leash, she will survive and deal a lot of damage, because over time she got buffed and got a lot of direct damage on her ultimate if there is only 1 enemy remaining. So against the boss in Faction Abyss, she could be really interesting, maybe one of the best direct damage dealer in this faction. If you don't have Megan and Tifia, maybe, I don't know. And also Maeve deals a lot of damage, but the best thing to bring in this faction is some poisons. Also, if you have Teru, he can apply Consolidation 1 to all your heroes, and so he is the best support to have here. So my best recommendation here, if you want to solo, and if you have the second exclusive on Tifia, you can reach at least stage 17 with 3 stars. If you don't want her, if you want to build a full team, my best recommendations are without Luna, Gru, Teru, so you will have all the buffs, all the heals you want, and he will also protect your DPS. But yeah, I think maybe Taff will be better. Yeah, so let's talk about Teru, Taff, Stan maybe, Malasa, and maybe, I don't know, maybe a shielder, maybe one of these two. This one? No, this one will be better. So you can also stun enemies and decrease their damage. So it's pretty nice, and shield your heroes. So this is the best team we can have in here. If you don't have Luna. If you have Luna, you can replace maybe Taff by Luna. So next faction here. If you took Lucifer, it's great, but it's not the best hero to have in this faction. He is great for the waves, because he can kill enemies really easy with the third exclusive and his ultimate. Otherwise, I would better recommend to use HP burning heroes, because you have a lot in here. You have Creon. Okay, you have this hero. He can solo content until maybe 3 stars stages 15 maybe, if you have enough stats on him, because he can self-apply counterattack, apply some he has some chance to apply some HP burnings with a basic attack. He can provoke. This hero is great in this faction Abyss. So maybe if you want to try to build him, only him for this faction early on to get some stars, it's a great idea. In here you have Liz. She is a great support, one of the best you can have in this faction, because you don't have legendary support, or maybe just Eilat. but she is the best healer in this faction, and she can provide a shield and cleanse. You have Luff and Creon, who are great damage dealers for this faction. A lot of HP burnings in AoE and single target. So with these three heroes, probably you can reach really high stages early on in this faction. But my best recommendations here would be Focus, because he can reduce the cooldown of one of your allies, bring him an extra turn. He can bring an immortal on your heroes, lower the attack of the boss by 20%. This is the best hero to have for this faction for sure. So Focus, Eilat would be great in higher stages because she can increase the defense of your heroes by 60%. This is the only buffer you have in this faction. We lack a consolidation here. But she also apply the rest to debuffs, which is pretty insane. So you won't take the Horrify from the boss, or the controls, or the bleeds, etc. So this is pretty nice. Also, she can provoke and lower the effect hit. So my best recommendation for this faction are Focus, Lucifer if you have him, but you have enough heroes in this faction to deal damage, so you don't need Lucifer in here. So Focus, Hawkmin, you can have him for free in the resource shop if you farm the advanced arena. So you will end up to have him. So Focus, Hawkmin, Gunner would be great too. Focus, Hawkmin, Gunner, Liz, and Eilat. This is my best team I would bring here. Early on you can use Monchka in order to get some stars. If you have only one hero in this faction, it should be him. If you don't have Hawkmin, you can use Creon or Luff. Luff with Focus would be great, I think. If you want to go with a burner team, you can use Focus, Hawkmin, Gunner, and Fist. It is a pretty solid team with Liz. And yeah, this is pretty all for this faction. This is what I recommend to use. Then let's jump into the next one. This one is probably the hardest one in the game, because you don't have a lot of great DPS in it. So if we have a look here, I tested Claude. He is a bad hero. He doesn't deal enough damage to get 3 stars even with great stats on stage 15. So yeah, you have to avoid him. Igor, probably Igor will deal a lot of damage if you have, I think it is exclusive 1 on him. Yeah, exclusive 1. So you will have the immortal on him, otherwise I don't think he can deal enough damage. Maybe the best damage dealer in this faction is for sure Elena, because she is a daughter, she can apply a lot of bleeds and also reset the duration of bleeds. So this is the best hero to bring in this faction. Then you have Nordak in order to bring a lot of buffs on your heroes, but it clearly don't need him here, so I don't recommend you to take him. You can use Anton. He is the best support you can have here. You can also use Kaido in order to stun enemies in AoE, increase the healed effect, the shielded effect of your heroes and the resistance of your heroes by a lot. And he is a great hero. He is a great hero. He also can heal your allies and grants them a shield. He is one of the best epic supports in the game. So my recommendations for this faction: if you have Elena, you can use her. She will reduce the crit damage you are gonna take. If you have Fiona, she can help a lot on the waves to control enemies. She can revive, which is pretty interesting. So she is the best support you can have. Then Anton for the consolidation. These two as support. Kaido also. Elena to deal some bleed damage. And then maybe Lily if you have her, so you can have an attack buff on your Elena, which can be No, she doesn't provide an attack buff. So she's not really great here. So only supports. If you don't have Anton, you can use Maya for the consolidation and extra heals. And Elena. The only DPS you need is Elena. So, talk about the next faction in here. Maybe on this one you will need the mythic hero. Otherwise it's gonna be difficult. AhkTaar deal a crazy amount of damage. So he is insane to clear waves and to control waves. He has everything you need. He can control all the waves with the skill 2, lower defense tenacity with the ultimate, increase his own attack by 40%, deal a lot of damage, self-increase turn meter using the basic attack, deal a lot of damage. This hero right here is insane. He is the best for this faction. So if you have to choose a first mythic hero, if you are planning to push a faction, so you have to choose between this mythic hero and Nita. But in this faction you have other heroes to deal damage to enemies. So probably I will go for AhkTaar first. Otherwise you will need Hizaro. You will need Tuck for the buffs in order to stay alive. And you don't have any great support in this faction. You have only the Chanel in order to heal, increase your turn meter, silence maybe, and it's pretty all. You have Tuck. Even if you don't have exclusives on him, you can increase your HP by 25% on all your heroes and apply a great shield. So this hero is mandatory for this faction. Gramdy is insane for this faction. He deals a decent amount of damage using the basic attack on the boss because he can deal some damage based on the target max HP if the target has a speed down on him or freeze. But if he takes some direct damage, he can inflict speed down on the boss. And that makes him a great hero. He can control waves with this skill, reduce their speed, and freeze them. 50% chance. So it's not a lot, but still it's a great. He can freeze in single target and lower the turn meter. He is a great, one of the best hero for this faction. So my recommendations for this faction, you want for sure, you want Mae to reduce the attack of the boss by 40%, to horrify waves, lower the resistance. It can be great for the boss fight and the waves, so you are gonna take less damage on the boss and you won't need consolidation anymore. So Mae, Tuck for the buff, AhkTaar for the damage. Otherwise, if you don't have AhkTaar, you're gonna need Hizaro. They are the only heroes you can bring to deal some damage in here. And Thanatos deals direct damage, but he will lack some damage on the boss without damage reduction on him. Maybe if you have AhkTaar you can use him also, but it will be better to use instead Hizaro and AhkTaar than AhkTaar and Thanatos. You can use Zyra if you have her in order to control waves, but the best thing I recommend, AhkTaar, Hizaro, Mae, Tuck and Gramdy. And no, you lack a healer. So forget about Hizaro, you can use the Chanel for sure. She's the best healer in here. If you don't have Gramdy, etc., you can use Rumble here. He can lower the speed and control waves. So he is insane for this faction. So choose between Gramdy or him. If you have Gramdy, use Gramdy. If you don't, use Rumble instead. So, the Chanel, we're gonna say Rumble, Mae, Tuck and AhkTaar, or Tuck and Hizaro. This is my recommendation for this faction. On the next one, Eternal Sect. Here, you have Queenland, you have Turf, They are great damage dealers because they can deal some dot damage. Then you can use Mamuk if you have him to heal your heroes. If I remember correctly, you need at least exclusives on him to heal your heroes, if I'm not mistaken. But at least you will increase your speed by 40%, Immortal on him, taunt the enemies, which is pretty nice, lower the attack by 40%, and Horrify. This one is great for the boss fight. Speed buff 40% on your heroes, 40% less attack on the boss is the best thing you want to have on this faction. You can use Vidar to apply the consolidation and some shield. He is great. Early on you can use only Holder. Maybe you can try to reach stages 12, 13 with 3 stars. I don't know exactly. And I don't know how high you can farm with him in endgame. I have to build him in the future, just because I'm curious about it. So, you can use Maguire in order to provoke enemies, provide a shield to your heroes. You can use Winex to revive, apply some continuous heals. He is the only healer in this faction. He can apply consolidation, but only on himself. And yeah, this is pretty all. This is pretty all. He is interesting. He can revive and has 25% chance to do a permanent revive on your ally. Otherwise, your ally is gonna die at the end of the turn. Madalena is not that great in here. Lam neither, Carry neither, Zakzulu neither, Dario neither. Sindo can be interesting in order to control enemies and lower the turn meter of the boss. She is a great hero to bring in here to control waves. If you have Seol, he is a great hero too. He can apply a shield. If you have the first exclusive, apply an Immortal, rest to debuff. If you have the third exclusive, he is a great hero to bring in here. So my best recommendations for this faction, Quinlan for sure. If you have Agatha, you can use Agatha, she's gonna be great. If you don't have her, you can use a Quinlan, Turf, a Mamuk if you have him, a Vidar, and then choose between Asindo to control waves, or I don't like Carried. Maybe Seol for the Immortal and the shield, or Maguire for the extra shield and the provocation, or Winex to apply some heals on your heroes. Yeah, you need some heals. So Winex maybe for sure. So this is what I recommend in here. On the Nameless Brotherhood, if you have Mutu, he is the best hero to solo this faction. I was able to solo until stage 16 with him, but I had a lot of exclusives on him. He has a lot of leech, and if you bring more leech and crit rate, crit damage on him, he will self-heal a lot and deal a lot of damage. I managed to get 60 stars on this faction with only Mutu, Lomas and Dustin. In this faction you can use Gerina in order to apply an Immortal on your heroes. She is a great hero to bring in here. She can heal also, so she is one of the best support to bring in here. If you have the first exclusive, she can also control waves using the Horrify in AoE on the second ability here. Immortal, Revive, she is great. If you have Lucia, it's a great hero in here. Maybe here the best hero to solo this content, epic one I mean, you can use Hardak. He has a huge amount of defense, self counterattack, self defense buff, and he deals a lot of damage by counter-attacking death damage. So he is a great hero. Maybe you can farm stages 13, 14 with only him. The best things I recommend on this faction are Timmy, because he can lower the attack and the crit rate of enemies by 40% and 50% crit rate. He is the best support to have against the boss, so you will survive. Your heroes will take less crit damage, 18% less crit damage thanks to his passive, which is huge. He can also grant all allies consolidation 1 at the beginning of the wave for 2 turns. He is great. And lower the speed of the enemy by 40%. One of the best heroes in the game against the bosses. He is so great. So you can use Timmy, you can use Gerina, you can use Lomas to lower the speed of the boss, lower the resistance of the boss by 25%, lower his defense by 20%, inflict a lot of bleed damage. He is a great hero. You can use Dustin to lower the attack of the boss by 40%, apply a shield, heal your heroes, lower the effect hit of enemies by 50% in AoE. He is a great hero. So my recommendations here: Timmy, Gerina, Lomas, Dustin, and maybe another one. Maybe Lucia. If you have Lucia, bring her here. If you don't have her, then it's gonna be maybe difficult to have all the stars in here. Yeah, let's be honest, it's gonna be difficult with these heroes. It's gonna be difficult. Maybe Eric, in order to deal more damage, or Mutsu, or Gustav. They are both doing almost the same amount of damage. But that's pretty all. Maybe some poisons, but Wolsey is not gonna apply a lot of poisons by himself. So this is the best things I recommend for this faction. But I don't think at the moment we can push this faction really high, because of the lack of damage. And finally, on the Wizard's High, here I recommend to use Nidroll for sure if you have him with Sleevel. So she's gonna boost his attack. But if you don't have Sleevel, it's okay because you have Eden. Eden is one of the best heroes to have on this faction. She is gonna have an insane amount of speed, heal a crazy amount of HP on your heroes, lower the attack of the boss by 20%, increase your turn meter and attack by 20%. If you have some exclusives on her, you don't need exclusives. It's with this skill. She is insane for this faction. If you have Nidroll, use Nidroll with her. Then maybe her in order to lower the attack of the boss by 40%, which is pretty huge. Lower the resistance. That means your Nidroll is gonna apply easily some bleeds. Increase your speed, crit rate, lower the speed. So in this faction you have Elik mandatory if you want to push really high, because he can apply defense up, tenacity up, and consolidation. You don't need exclusives on him. Just bring him for the buffs, and he becomes insane. So best recommendations in here: Eden, Nidroll, Weasley, so 3 heroes, Elik and Space. I think this is probably the best thing you can bring in here. You can use her if you have her in order to lower the speed by 40%, but you don't need that because Space does that. And so you will have all the support you need, all the best buffs in the game. It's the best faction. You are the tankiest in this faction, because you are gonna lower the attack of the boss by 40%, you will have consolidation on your heroes, lower the speed of the boss, inflict a huge amount of damage, and probably this faction is gonna be the easiest one. Maybe easier than the Dragon Tribe. I love this faction. If you have the right heroes, you have Space for free, you have Eden for free. You have Weasley for free if you're lucky enough to summon her. She's an epic hero. You just need 2 legendary heroes. Need rolled, mandatory. Otherwise you have to play with Burns, but I don't think you can deal a lot of damage by herself with Anna. And direct damage, just forget that in this faction. You won't get a lot of stars and get high in stages if you don't use dots in this faction. And Elic is mandatory for the consolidation. So that was all for the teams. And now so for the mythic heroes, remember the 2 best mythic heroes to have for the faction Abyss is AhkTaar in this one, if you want to push this one, and Nita in this one. All others, you have everything you need without mythic heroes. So that was all for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If it's the case, as usual, please like, comment and subscribe, and then see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Infinite Magicraid. Play to slay.